what's up, y'all? This is your girl, Uniquely Nye. Welcome back to another episode of the Nye Perspective. I'm going to take a few seconds to do this disclaimer, although by now we should know this segment is not for children under 16. Some episodes are not that bad. However, majority of the episodes are going to contain material and topics not exactly appropriate. To go ahead and monitor and not let your children listen to this segment. That being said, today's episode, I will be sharing my story. Because I feel like I'm talking to you guys every week, right? But you're like, well, who are you? Where you come from? And so today we are going to be talking about me, who I am, where I'm from, how I think, the reason I even started the podcast and all this stuff. We're gonna dive into some of that stuff today. Alright, so who am I? My name is Aisha Benet Cole. I was born October 1st, 1980. I grew up in Oakland, California. I went to elementary school in Oakland and Hercules and pretty much Oakland. I had a pretty typical black Christian upbringing. I was always very vocal. I was always speaking out against what I felt was wrong. So that's some of my personality. Now, into now. Let's see. So, my father was a preacher, and so was his father before him. My mother, she started out as a teacher. She also is an amazing artist. She doesn't draw anymore now that she's older. She is an amazing cook. My mom her side of the family is from Texas. I was raised in a single parent household. I lived with my mom my entire life. My dad wasn't there for majority of, well, I'll say it like this. He was there on and off. Let's see. So, when I was 4, I said I was going to be a bus driving, tap dancing. Now, I had no idea what that meant at that time, but in my 4-year-old mind, reason that I would be driving the bus, someone would get hurt on the bus, I would fix them up because I was a doctor, and then I would tap dance to entertain them while they recovered. Now, that is a sweet dream, and you know what, the truth of the matter is, I am about digging up, or I am about bringing healing The church I grew up in was very much holiness, Pentecostal. So a lot of stuff we weren't allowed to wear pants to church. We could wear pants to school, but to church it was none of that. It was just all the traditional. You've heard all those stories before. Yeah, I lived it. As a part of that story, I preached my first sermon at 8 years old. That was very highly encouraged. So I had a very different understanding of the word at that time because I only regurgitated what I heard. I mean, on some level, I did study myself and find things, and I had questions, but I was raised you couldn't ask these questions. You just didn't ask them. You had a matter of faith. You just had to have faith or not. And so I grew up in that very strict way, right? Very much so. I look at it as very much so hide who you really are, and this is who you present to the world, right? You present this image. And so I did a lot of that. Up until I went to public school up until 3rd grade. In 4th grade, my mom decided that no, you're done with public school. I'm going to put you in a private school, better education. Which I didn't mind. It was a cool experience. It was definitely a culture shock because this is a Catholic school, and I told you I grew up holiness Pentecostal, so that was unheard of. But it was exposure. It was exposing me to different things. And so I remember always standing up for those students who got bullied. I remember being friends with them people and, not really caring about popularity like that. Did I have a perfect childhood? Absolutely not. I went through a lot. There was some sexual abuse, which we will talk about in the episode where I actually talk about sexual abuse. We'll talk about that. But for today, we're not. Just know there was sexual abuse in my childhood. I felt like the adults around me didn't really like me. And so I come to the kids. Not saying that it was my mom, because my mom was always at work, but that meant I was left with my grandmother and my aunt and my uncles, things like that. So going to private school, people always thought I was better than them because I went to private school. And I actually did. And then puberty happened. And puberty is where I began to really struggle with my self-esteem. Because it was during puberty that I learned that I am allergic to anything we put on my skin. Be it soap, be it deodorant, be it smell goods and lotions. So I can't put those type of things on my skin because I have very sensitive skin. Nowadays, it's just vegan products, right? But back then, there was no vegan products. We didn't know what to call it. All I knew, or all my peers knew, was that I was stinky, right? And that wasn't a thing before. So that led people to tease me, and it led me to be very insecure about letting people close to me because now I have this body odor issue, right? And so I would sing and stuff at school. And I would perform in all the performances and stuff. And I was actually pretty good at it. I had decided that I was going to be the next Whitney Houston. 13, I went on this audition, and I did get picked top 25 out of 400 kids who auditioned. And when I went to the final audition, by the time the producers and stuff came back in the room, I had the commercial memorized, and I was ready to go. They wanted to sign me, but of course, financial issues, all that good stuff, that didn't happen. But when I tell people that I was actually shy, people are shocked. Like, what? No? I just have a big mouth. My mouth moves all the time. But I'm actually I'm an extroverted introvert. So when I'm speaking up for other people, I can speak up and all this other stuff, but I'm really like shy and reserved to my core. And so going into high school, and really what it is, if I'm really honest, if I go into a new situation, I'm always quiet first until people get to know me. And when people get to know me, then I bring out my personality. But right off, you get the shy, kind of reserved person. And I got partnered up with a senior. And this senior happened to be student body president and known by everybody. And she was in choir and drama. And so during my freshman year, she kind of took me under her wing. And she was like, look, girl, I know you got that little shy thing going on, and that's cute, but I know way too many people for you to be shy, and it's not cool. I'm not going to leave you off by yourself, so you're going to have to start talking to people. And so that got me to start talking to people and becoming more outgoing. And of course, I joined drama club, but before then, I had never taken any professional acting or whatever. I also tried out athletics. Now, I'm not very good at athletics because, let me self-proclaim, give you the proclaimer, I am clumsy. So me and sports did not really mesh well. I tried volleyball, and I got okay at the end. I tried basketball. Basketball was a really traumatizing experience because the coach had favoritisms. The female coach on the team had favoritisms. However, the guy coach, who I love to this day, Coach Clyde Keith Johnson, that he helped me so much with confidence because he was like, look, she's out there hustling like everybody else. And everybody had to learn. So, but the other coach, she had favoritism. And so I didn't get to learn what I needed to learn. There was a lot of mistreatment there. And so on to high school. In high school, I played volleyball because that's what I already know, and I didn't have a bad experience with it. And my best friend was like, come on, do volleyball with me. I was like, oh, okay. And so we played volleyball freshman year, and then I did drama, and I realized I was actually good at it. Like, I realized, like, this was my home. The people here accepted me. I wasn't just a weirdo. I began to come alive when I did drama. And so the following year, which was my sophomore year, I sat my mom down and I was like, look, Mom, I realized that at the end of volleyball season is drama, and I don't want to miss the tryouts, especially because I had I wanted to, be able to go get the role. And if I wait till after volleyball season, I'm going to miss all the auditions for the good roles or whatever. And my mom told me, well, I'll tell you this. Either you play volleyball or you don't do drama. And so, me being the person that I am, I'm very stubborn. So, I still did volleyball. However, I did not try. Because at this point, I was only there because I was forced to. It wasn't like a dream. So, where I personally gave up, and if you've seen the Daria, that was me. I was just like, oh. And my team hated me because I didn't want to be there, but I had to be. And so, anyway. And so then after that, I began to struggle in school a little bit, right? Because I ended up breaking my foot. And so I was out of school for 2 weeks. And then, so that meant I was behind 2 weeks, right? And it wasn't like I was a straight A student. I had good grades, but I wasn't a straight A student in high school. So 2 weeks being out of school, and then being slower because now I'm still catching the bus because at that time my mom didn't have transportation. My mom was always working. So I had to catch public transportation to to school on crutches. So that took even longer. So I was really late, missed a lot of stuff. And then, my school, because they knew, again, it wasn't my fault, they made special provisions for me. And then I didn't have to worry about sports because my grades just didn't qualify. And so I just didn't. But my school that I went to, they made special provisions for me to still be able to do drama and still get the supportive services that I needed. Because they knew the type of student I was. And then, so I told you that I preached my first sermon at 8. And all that meant was that on Children's Sunday, I said a sermon. That's it. It wasn't no big fancy thing. But, however, I will say, moving into the spirituality piece, growing up, when I was coming up in elementary school and high school, I had a very judgmental way of looking at the world. Why? Because that's how everybody around me was. Everybody around me was judgmental. Like, I could tell stories of going home with people and they would be dogging somebody. Like, talk about them real bad. So, as a kid, you learn that that's what you're supposed to do. And so, it wasn't that that's who I was, it's what I was learning. That's what I was exposed to. And so, the journey of spirituality for me is a good one, and it's ongoing. So, I started out, like I said, very judgmental, very much so, everything is this way or that way. If not, you're going to hell, this, that, or whatever. And then as I grew up, and I began to see that, like, the stuff I was saying, I didn't mean it in a negative way, or I didn't mean it in a judgmental way. But it was, people didn't want to be around me because I was perceived as being judgmental or judgmental or whatever, right? And then I moved into actually knowing who God, Jesus, and the whole started out as God being this big meaning that, right? You either do what he say or you go to hell, right? And then I learned the truth about the cross and really what that stood for. And for me, that was pivotal because when I realized that what he did, what Jesus did on the cross 2,000 years ago, encompassed everything that we would ever do throughout our life, meaning it was already paid before I was even born, to ask for forgiveness for it, and to understand that he already wrote the story. So if he was sitting up there judging on my behavior that he already forgave, and he's at the end of the story, the happy ending of the story. He ain't even sitting right here. Like, this for him is like the movie theater, right? And so I went into that phase, and so I learned about who Jesus really is. My first religious experience, I learned who God was. My second religious experience, I learned who Jesus was. It was and is. Right? And now, in my life now, I will say that in my life now, rather than being religious, I'm actually more spiritual now. I have come to see, and the more I learn, the more I see that spirituality is all interconnected. Religion is actually not made to separate us, but unite us. But because people think, oh, only I have the truth, or only you have the truth, or only they have the truth, it became a fractured thing. But the whole is all interconnected, and you can find similar stories if you just sit down and pay attention and have a conversation with someone. But you have to get over your own bias and your own preconceived notions in order for that to happen. So, I just gave a brief synopsis of what I go through spiritually. So spiritually, right now, I'm in a place where I believe everything is true, yet nothing is true. I believe that everything is all interconnected, like we are all interconnected as humanity and as spirits. I believe that there is a God, or I'll say like this, I believe that there is a source that created all of this. I believe that people can only view things from the way they see things. And if they have a fixed mindset, then they will keep a fixed mindset about everything. I grew from having a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. I had to teach myself that it was okay to open my brain and to think about stuff and to really be me. I struggle with being me because for the majority of my life I was told this is what I had to be and whatever. Like the only thing I had any choice in, I really didn't have much choice. I mean, when I went to college, so I started college, right, at 17 because my birthday is into October. So if school starts in August, I was 17 when I started college. And I thought I was going to be an actress, right? I thought that was my path. That's what I was going to do. But then I started to like psychology and the different things that talk about the brain and stuff like that. And long story short, I ended up pregnant. And folks would think I left school because I got pregnant. Actually, that's not true. After I had the baby, my daughter, I actually returned back to school. So I have my first and only child at 19. So I went back to school. I was back in school, right? And she was actually going with me because I didn't have money for babysitters and I wasn't on welfare. I was determined not to get welfare because I didn't want to be that statistic, right? Eventually I had to, after some talking to from some people. But initially that was not what I did. And so I took my daughter with me to school. And I was getting on the bus. On my way home from school, and I slipped back and broke my right wrist. Now, why is that tragic? Because if you know anything about me, you know I'm right-handed. So, being right-handed, or being right-hand dominant, that meant writing, all that other stuff I couldn't do because now I'm in a cast, I'm in all this. So I actually had to withdraw from school until that healed. And then we went through some personal problems. We went through some personal stuff. And so I had to go to work. So I went to work. I was working 2 or 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet. And then when I did go back to school, I said, okay, you have a child now. It may not be practical to go for acting or whatever. So I went to Bryman and got me a dental assistant certificate, right? Because as I was talking to them, they were like, oh, a dental assistant who's not working does not want to work. First of all, that's not true. Because they don't tell you that you actually need experience to get hired outside of your externship. And so I found it hard to find work. And when it was hard for me to find work, I was like, well, why am I doing this and this is not really what I wanted to do? So I found a normal job, because I still had responsibilities. And I decided to work for a minute. And then, I guess my daughter was 4 years old. And I sat down with some family. To my family and went and got welfare for my daughter, and I was able to go to school. And again, I thought I was going for drama, right? Because I was going to write plays and I was going to be the next Tyler Perry. Because actually seeing Tyler Perry movies, because during that time, Tyler Perry movies, which gave me encouragement, right? So I thought that's what I was going to do. I was going to write plays like Tyler Perry and this, that, or whatever, right? And so I got into school and acting was cool. But then I got into radio and television production. And I started to see radio as a medium and television as a medium and using my thing. And so while, yes, I love acting because it's where I started, I don't want to be an actress. I want to own my own production company. So that means I got to learn all this stuff. So, of course, this is me speaking. And I did school for a long time. I almost finished. I was 27 years shy. And then of graduating. And I decided that, you know what? Now is the time to move out of your house. Your mom's house. You're 27, you have a daughter. You gotta, because again, my mom was the type of person, she thought it was helping, but it did not. My mom is the type of person, she'll be like, oh, you'll never be able to make it on your own. You'll never be. And so I was dead set to prove her wrong. And so I moved out. I found a room to rent that was down the street from my school. I was like, oh, it's good. But no, that was not the case. The lady, the room I originally agreed to rent, she moved me into another room while I wasn't home. Then wanted to still charge the same amount of money. So I quickly moved out of there. I moved in with my dad temporarily. And this is where I don't want to air it, but I have to tell the truth because I'm telling my story. So I moved in with my dad for like a few months, and I was paying him money or whatever. And he was like, I've always wanted you here with me, this, that, whatever, telling me all this stuff. Like, hey, even if we gotta find another place, that's cool. I will, I've always wanted you with me. Relax, right? Now, this is before. Now, him and my mom was going back to court over weird child support and stuff. And so before that court case, he's telling me all this. I want you here. I've always wanted you here. You're my daughter. I love you. Relax. You're home. I got you. Well, one day, I had just got through cleaning up the kitchen. He comes home. There's teenagers in the house because my little sister's in the house and my cousins are over the house. And he's like, you gotta go. This is after the court case. He's like, Section 8 said no, and I can't have you here anymore. Like all this. But it totally changed from when I first got here. So to me, that was a betrayal. I was hurt. And immediately after that, I went to the hospital. Because during that time, I had been bleeding 14 days straight. And again, I'm 27 years old. I'm still a baby in some ways, right? Never been on my own. Never, whatever, right? So as I'm in the hospital, like, so I had to have a blood transfusion and all this stuff, like, all this stuff was going on in my life at the same time. And this time, I was super devout in the church. Like, I was at Bible study, choir practice, everything. I didn't miss a beat, you know? Eventually, I did have to leave school because I began trying to seek employment. And, before I moved in with my dad, I moved into a shelter for 30 days. And while I was in the shelter, they helped me sign up for different lists, right? Because you do get resources. I end up, someone lied on me at the shelter, said I was a threat. I was threatening people and starting stuff, and I really wasn't. That's not who I am. So I ended up getting kicked out. And my dad took me in. And of course, so all that happened. So I'm 27. I have this child with me. I'm trying my best to find some stability. I stayed there for 90 days, not long, and it was what I needed to recover. And then when I got strong enough, I moved in with my brother, who had moved out. And I thought that was a good situation. He had this roommate, but we were cool. The whole house was cool, so we thought it was good. So eventually I got the letter that I got approved for housing, and so I was moving into my own place. My first time in my own place, I'm super excited because it's mine. Mine, all mine. And so the first blessing was, the first year my rent was $22. So I was super juiced, right? I could pay that and do what I needed to do, right? And I did. I paid my rent. I really was able to take care of myself in that time. But during the course of being there, my house got broken in twice. And so all the men in my life, meaning my brother, my cousin, my now ex-husband, they all was like, no, you gotta move up out of there. First of all, I have my own place. I'm not paying rent. Like, when they pulled me up out of there, my rent was zero. And so I was working, so I had a good little situation, right? But it seemed like as soon as I had to give up my place, I lost my job. Like, all this stuff. Like, every time I felt like I was getting back on my feet, I would get knocked back down. So I ended up moving where? Back in with my mom. And moving back in with my mom wasn't a bad thing, but it was the last thing I needed to do. Because I love my mom, but in her household, she fosters this codependency thing. And so, where it doesn't set you up to be able to take care of yourself. It sets you up to be kind of dependent on her. And I know that's not her fault, that's just the way she is. And so, this was a problem for me. Because I slipped back into old behaviors that I had broke, right? And then, so I had started volunteering at the Nevin Center. Yes. No, first I started volunteering at the Black Rep. And the Black Repertory Theater was a great opportunity because I got exposure. But it was also an opportunity where I got used. And so I left that opportunity. And then my next volunteering experience, I volunteered at the Nevin Center because I wasn't working. And so because I wasn't working and I wasn't in school during that time, I decided what I wanted to do, and I realized I was called to work with children. And so I volunteered at the Nevin Center, and I would help with that for school program, whatever they needed around the center. I helped out with that, right? And so then when I later on got employed, I could no longer do that. But so I went back to work, right? And then but this all happened when I had my place. Leaving my place, I lost my job. Through some fault of my own, but not really, not all the way. So I began to look for work and figure out what was going on in my life. Because at this point, like I said, I'm heavily into church. I'm tithing. I'm doing all the stuff you're supposed to do. And it seemed like my life wasn't turning out like was still stunted, and I was doing all the things that I was told to do. But it was because I wasn't being me. It took till I was 32 for me to style my hair the way I wanted to color it the way I wanted to get a tattoo, and all the stuff that I wanted to do, but I had been afraid to do. Oh, you don't want to do that. Oh, you don't want to do that. Let me tell you, there are people in your life that live to tell you, oh, you don't want to do that. You have to ignore them and start living life on your own. When I started listening less to the people around me and listening more to my inner self and what I wanted to be, my life started to make progress. I end up working for City of Oakland. I end up getting after school program jobs, working as a rec leader. I end up working in all this stuff. And in 2014, now prior to this, now mind you, in none of this did you hear me say I finished my education outside of my dental assistant certificate. So it was about in 2014, my cousin was working for, or 2013, my cousin did a stint with AmeriCorps. He was like, cousin, you should do this. Like, they pay for your college, this, that, or whatever. You can get all that off of you. It don't matter. Like, come try it out. Now, I shied away from academia because I didn't feel smart enough to help kids. And I'm like, I ain't about to mess up no kid, right? I did all the enrichment stuff. I taught choir and baking and cooking, all this stuff, right? Arts and crafts and all this stuff. I could teach all that. But when you start talking about academics, I shied away from it because I didn't feel smart enough to. So the next year I applied, I got the job, and I was an academic intervention specialist. Now, this opened doors because this time I had a full-time job. I was, starting to figure out or starting to get more than the year here, temporary here, this, that, or whatever, right? And so I did the program, completed it, and actually I enjoyed it. And so then I started back doing after school programs and stuff like that because I stayed into it. I stayed into working with kids and trying to figure it out, right? And then I worked for Girls Inc., which was another literacy intervention, which taught me a whole lot. Like, I learned everything I know about literacy intervention, I learned from there. From there, I went on to do ABA work, and that's working with kids with mental disabilities, helping them to do daily tasks. From there, I went on to being an IA, which I actually didn't really like, only because I was dealing with adults, and I consider anybody over 18 an adult. I know if you have a disability, it's a little bit different, but I didn't sign up for adults. I do elementary school kids. That's just my thing. So I didn't care for that too much. However, I started to see that all of this prepared me because I wrote down in a class I had taken, I wanted to start at the bottom and I wanted to be a psych coordinator. This year, I am a psych coordinator with Reading Partners. And so for me, that is huge. That is huge because I have toiled for 13 years and passed up because I don't have a degree. So So I felt less than. But I got to I'm a site coordinator now. And then outside of that, what I want to do professionally outside of that is I want to create and tell stories for people. I want to create programming that people can watch and they're holistic and people can think and challenge the status quo. And I want to have an after-school program that teaches kids how to create their own podcasts and radio stations and TV stations and stuff like that. That's my goal. And so with this so what brings me to this podcast? This podcast is my baby. I have for the last couple of years I've been saying I want to do a podcast, but I don't know what I want to do. I don't know how I want to set it up. And when this pandemic started, I had started to get real depressed because I went from having 4 jobs to no job. You understand? I went from 4 jobs, having 4 jobs, having a car, like being able to get around when and wherever, to I had totaled my car and I didn't have a job. So then I had to depend on unemployment. And I actually listened to this person. She said, you could either use this time to be depressed or you could use this time to do something you've always wanted to do. And so I sat and thought about it. I have so many unique talents. I have so many facets of me. I like to cook. I like dealing with the youth and children, which is why I have story time with Smiley. And then I wanted to have a forum where I'm able to have grown folk conversation. Like this right now. This right now is just telling my story. But where we can have grown folk conversation about the issue. And like really talk about it. But talking in a way where it's open. We hear all the sides of the argument. And we talk about ways to make it better. Not just talking about it, but being about it. And so I spent from April until now building this podcast, building the different segments, what it would look like. In this first phase, it's going to be audio and 2 videos. Most stuff you will catch on audio. There will be audio and video on YouTube because I do have a YouTube. But eventually, everything's going to be audio and video. And I'm developing it as we go. Every day, I'm adding new elements. Just like this segment. This segment started out supposed to be a group conversation. And someone said to me, well, what? It's called The Night Perspective. Why aren't you speaking? And so, while I want the group perspective, and we will have a full spectrum in the next couple of episodes, we will have a full spectrum talking about religion, because I spoke on it a little bit, but we're going to get deep into that religion piece. So I will be having another one of those soon, but I'm enjoying sharing my perspective with you guys. Again, the Night Perspective is a part of the Uniquely Night podcast. You can stream it on all streaming platforms. platforms starting October 6th, Tuesday, October 6th. If you want to follow me on social media, Uniquely Not Podcast. If you want to visit the website, www.uniquelynotpodcast.com. I'm going to wrap my story up by saying my life has not been perfect. My story is not perfect. I did not have time in this one episode to say everything. However, over the course of the Night Perspective and some of the stuff we talk about, we're going to hear more sides of me. We're going to hear more aspects. And so I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. May your day be cool and peace.